सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has got the political circles abuzz. Die-hard optimists in the opposition camp suddenly see a ray of hope. Like you remember Morpheus in that Hollywood movie, The Matrix? That was way back, about a couple of decades back. You know, like Morpheus, these opposition leaders, they're looking very convinced that they have found the one in Nitish Kumar. Someone who can dodge the BJP's bullets, stop them with his bare palm and save the humankind. If you recall, I mean, I'm sure many of you must have watched that movie. That's my favorite one. You know, when bullets start coming to Neo, I mean, he has pushed his palm here and all bullets kind of fall from here. So that's the kind of things that the opposition is expecting from Nitish Kumar. And not all the opposition leaders, but yeah, the die-hard optimists I'm talking about, especially the left liberal intelligentsia. The Matrix, the film, was, however, a science fiction movie, far removed from the political matrix in the real world. Look at the mood of the nation's survey by India today. You know, that shows that the question was in the survey that who is the best suited as the next PM. 53% of the respondents told the surveyors that they want Narendra Modi. And you know what the figure was for Arvind Kejriwal and Rahul Gandhi? 7% and 9%. Look at this huge gap. Although the survey also tells us that even now, if there were going to be an election, the NDA will get about 286 seats compared to the UPA, which would get 146. These are, of course, surveys. But that tells you the huge gap between the Prime Minister's popularity rating and his nearest challengers. I mean, 53 to 9 and 7, I mean, it's a huge gap. Anyway, as what I'm driving at is that, you know, the PM or PM Modi is still going strong. I mean, as it is, the Bihar CM is not looking like a match to Modi. But if cliches or hackneyed phrases could be of any help to opposition leaders, I can just point out that the next Lok Sabha election is 18 to 20 months away, and it's a long time in politics, as the cliche goes. Then let's talk about, you know, Nitish Kumar's ambitions. I mean, he has been maintaining, I mean, we saw after he came out of the Raj Bhavan and then after the swearing in when he was talking to reporters, I mean, he has been maintaining that he has no davedari or claims as a prime ministerial contender in 2024. But when he starts talking about opposition unity and expressing doubts whether the winner of 2014 can do it again in 2024, I mean, you know, I mean, these comments are very telling. I'm talking in that context, like his ambitions. He's not saying so, but it's for all to see what he has been suggesting. So there's this article in the Indian Express on the 10th by Ghanshyam Tiwari. He's a Samajwadi Party spokesperson, but you know, he was associated with the JDU for about 10 years, between 2005 and 2015. So he was talking about a dinner event in 2010, where Nitish Kumar spoke, and then he said in Hindi that जो पार्टी या परिवार नहीं बल्कि अपने दम पर जमीन से उठता है, वो 70-72 साल पर जाकर प्रधानमंत्री बनने का एक मजबूत दावेदार बन पाएगा. Basically, the one who rises from the grassroots, not through a family or party, but on his own steam, will in his 70s, when he is 70, 71, 72, will become a strong candidate for the Prime Minister. That was Nitish Kumar in 2010. Well, today Nitish Kumar is 71 years old. So he fits that criterion. But to become a strong candidate, Nitish Kumar must make some compromises with what he strongly believed in 2010. And to start with, I would say his views about the Congress. So in 2010, when the final tally of the assembly election results was out, So there was this former classmate of his, Arun Sinha. So they were together in Bihari College of Engineering. So Arun Sinha told him that, a number of so-called liberals in India wonder why Nitish Kumar did not break ties with the BJP and join hands with the Congress. So then Nitish Kumar told him that Congress displays so much arrogance. It is hard to bear it. They believe they are the only political party in the country. The rest are an aberration. So in fact, it's a party of slaves where, the power flows from one family. It provides no room for independent identity. ये देश की सबसे वाहियात पार्टी है. It's the country's most worthless party. That was Nitish Kumar telling Arun Sinha, his former classmate and journalist, in 2010. Sinha has quoted this in his biography. It's a brilliant biography of Nitish Kumar, titled The Battle for Bihar, Nitish Kumar and the Theatre of Power. In fact, Nitish Kumar might have, if he's holding such views, the fact is he has reasons to hold this grudge against the Congress. So Nitish Kumar's father, for instance, Ram Lakhan Singh, he was a freedom fighter. He went to jail also. And then in 1952 assembly elections, he wanted a ticket from the Congress to contest from Bakhtiyarpur assembly constituency. The Congress told Ram Lakhan Singh, Nitish Kumar's father, that okay, fine, this time we cannot give it to you, but in the next election, we will consider your candidature, we will give you the ticket. When the next election comes in 1957, the Congress denied him the ticket again. That prompted Nitish Kumar's father to quit the Congress. The grudge I am talking about, possible grudge, of course. But of course, Nitish Kumar is a practitioner of realpolitik. So he did not mind the Congress in his Mahagathbandhan in 2015 and even inducted ministers from the Congress. So before the grand alliance was finalized, Nitish Kumar had met Rahul Gandhi and decided to actually tie up with the Congress in the election. That was because, Lalu Yadav wouldn't accept Nitish Kumar as the CM candidate while they were talking for the Mahagathbandhan, and Nitish Kumar wouldn't settle for anything less. And in the meantime, Rahul Gandhi approached Nitish Kumar that let's have an alliance. So, Nitish Kumar wanted to abandon Lalu Yadav and wanted to go ahead with the Congress in an alliance in 2015 election. But later on, Mulayam Singh Yadav and Sharad Yadav, they persuaded Lalu Yadav to kind of relent, let him be the CM candidate. The reason was, Mulayam Singh Yadav was then working to bring all the splinters of the Janata Dal, about half a dozen of them. He wanted to bring them together. The SP, the RJD, the JDU, the JDS, the INLD and the Samajwadi Janata Party. He wanted them all together again. In fact, a party name was also thought of, and it was decided that cycle will be the symbol of the United Party. So all these things were happening at Mulayam's initiative when this Mahagathbandhan talk or Grand Alliance talks were happening in Bihar. So once there was this real possibility that Nitish Kumar would go with the Congress, and Mulayam Singh Yadav really got alarmed. Mulayam Singh Yadav, they were all together. So the very idea that, one of the Janata Dal splinters, the JDU, would abandon the RJD to join hands with the Congress, that would have completely jeopardized Mulayam's initiative to bring them all together. So they finally managed to convince Lalu to fine, let him be the CM candidate. That was in 2015. So why I'm recalling all this is just to try to explain Nitish Kumar's relationship with the Congress. So somebody who had such deep grudge with the Congress, somebody who thought that Congress is the most wahiyat party or the most worthless party, was ready to join hands with the Congress in 2015, abandoning Lalu Yadav. But this is all history. In fact, as we know, Nitish Kumar is not somebody who lets his personal ambitions get clouded by his political or ideological beliefs. Again, as you see, the Congress is back in his government after his latest political somersault. Now that he has dumped the BJP, Congress is still negotiating with him how many ministerial berths, this, that. Congress is set to be part of his government again. So the relationship has again changed. Now, Rahul Gandhi has been known to be a Nitish Kumar admirer for a long time. He somehow liked that Sushashan Babu, as he was called earlier. Of late, we have not heard much of it, but we know very well that he was a big admirer. But now in the current situation, when we are talking about the opposition's joint prime ministerial candidate, what role will the Congress play? So, as we have all seen, the Congress has never really shown any inclination to accept a non-Gandhi as the opposition's prime minister candidate. Every time somebody would talk about Pawar or Mamata Banerjee, Congress would skirt it. Congress wouldn't talk about it because they're very convinced that this party has the right to become, being the pan-India party, only the Congress candidate can be there. When they say Congress candidate, it's basically a Gandhi. There was a time when Nitish Kumar was convinced that, he did not want to be the prime ministerial candidate. So, in 2013, we all remember when he was opposing Narendra Modi's candidature as the prime ministerial candidate of the BJP, the NDA, he was opposing it tooth and nail. And then the biographer I'm talking about, Arun Sinha, he told the biographer, and I'm quoting what Nitish Kumar told his biographer, that the lesson from history is clear. Never should the leader of a small party try to be PM with the support of a larger party. And he talked about Charan Singh, Chandrasekhar, Deve Gowda, I.K. Gujral. They all fell with their faces down, as he said. So, his remark was, coalition with a large party is okay, but leading a central government with the support of a large party is a totally stupid idea. I'm quoting Nitish Kumar, a totally stupid idea. Of course, when he said this, it was way back in 2013. And he was not in his 70s because, as I have just said, that he always thought that, if you are somebody who has grown from the grassroots, if he is around 72, 73, he is a strong PM candidate. So when he made this statement about the larger party and the stupid idea thing, he was younger. Today he is 71. So his views might have changed. But problem is, it's not just the uncertainty about the Congress's stance that may bother him, whether Congress will support him as a PM candidate. And Congress has not said a word about this. First is this uncertainty, and then Nitish Kumar must be noticing. All these regional satraps in the opposition camp, they are all silent. So he dumped the BJP, nobody has spoken. Not Mamata Banerjee, not Arvind Kejriwal, not Pawar. They have talked about the BJP's how the BJP has been dumping its allies, or how the BJP has been treating its allies in that context, but nobody is celebrating like Nitish Kumar is back, he's there. Nobody is talking like that. Everybody is silent. And that tells us the story of how, some feet of prime ministerial contenders in the opposition camp could be a big hurdle to Nitish Kumar's ambitious march to, say, 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, the Prime Minister's residence in Delhi. Anyway, by the time you have 2024 elections, of course, the PM's residence would shift. But I'm talking in today's context. So in 2019, when Nitish Kumar had said that, his party would not go with the NDA outside Bihar, that was right after the Lok Sabha election he had made its statement. So after Nitish Kumar's statement, Mamata Banerjee had pounced on it. She congratulated him and thanked him for taking this stand. Now, Nitish Kumar has dumped the BJP in Bihar also, but Mamata Banerjee has maintained stoic silence. So has Arvind Kejriwal. So has KCR. All these prime ministerial contenders, they are all silent. They could have accepted Nitish Kumar of 2010. When the then US ambassador had come to Patna and praised Nitish Kumar's model of governance and development, and he said that, that Bihar would be a perfect place for the US president. Barack Obama was there then, US president's visit. He even gifted 3 books written by Barack Obama to Nitish Kumar. Then again you had another one praising, I'm talking about people from outside the country in fact, Pakistani High Commissioner Salman Bashir then. He had said that Bihar model of development is very impressive and quote unquote, this is a matter of discussion in Pakistan. This is something that was quoted by my friend Santosh Singh who wrote another book, basically Ruled or Misruled Story and Destiny of Bihar. He's an Indian Express journalist. It's a fantastic book again. So he quoted it, I read it there. That was 2010, how people were talking about Nitish Kumar, not inside the country but outside too. Or people who came from outside, so high commissioners, ambassadors. But Nitish Kumar of 2022 is not the same. You can check with Tejasvi Yadav, who was Kumar's deputy earlier and his deputy now again. Tejasvi Yadav drew huge crowds in the last assembly election, attacking Nitish Kumar's misgovernance, failures, all kinds of failures like on the law and order front, over unemployment is so. He was all over. So, Nitish Kumar's model of development now, there's a big question mark on it now. The other day, one of my colleagues was saying from Bihar that there was a time earlier that she would land at Patna airport at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening and take a cab and go to her place, which is about a 2 hours drive. But today, her parents have given her very strict instruction. You may be a journalist, but you can't be traveling in Bihar at 8 p.m. today. So, a lot of things have changed again in Bihar. When we are talking about Nitish Kumar as a possible prime ministerial candidate, and we have to look at what he has to show now. What Nitish Kumar was between 2005 and 2010, what he is today. I mean, even after 2010 also for a few years he was pretty okay. But things have absolutely changed. So unlike Narendra Modi, who could showcase the Gujarat model of governance when he was making that bid for prime ministership in 2014, Nitish Kumar does not have any Bihar story to tell today. While Nitish Kumar has all those hurdles to cross, I'm talking about how the Congress has never supported any non-Gandhi as a prime ministerial candidate, how other contenders like Kejriwal, Mamta, they have been silent. So while he has all those hurdles to cross to realize his national ambitions, his candidature as the opposition's PM candidate could still be the best bet for the Congress. Unless, of course, the principal opposition party still thinks that Rahul Gandhi can give a stiffer challenge to Modi. I just spoke to you about Mood of the Nation survey. 53% for Modi, 9% for Rahul Gandhi. But if the party still thinks that's a different thing. But why I think is he remains the best bet for the Congress as the opposition's PM candidate is what I'm going to explain in this episode of Politically Correct. Given that even Mamta Banerjee says that the best case scenario in 2024 is that the BJP does not get a majority. So if that is the kind of assessment the BJP's most fierce challengers are making, Nitish Kumar, in fact, he does not pose any long-term threat to the Congress. Because if it is going to be just about, bringing the BJP down to 240, 250, whatever, but not a clear majority, if that is the opposition's best way forward into 2024, well, that means they are not even expecting the opposition candidate to come anywhere near that. What Mamta Banerjee is saying that, okay, if they are they lose the majority, we will all come together. This is what Nitish Kumar is also saying, all parties will unite. But then if you are starting with that assumption that probably BJP will come down to below 272, we know where things will go then if they are the kinds of objectives the opposition has. So going by that, if Nitish Kumar is just there to, when you are trying to make a point, and he will be 73 by the time the elections will happen. So he won't be any threat to the opposition, to nobody, and not to the Congress, least of all to the Congress. So by supporting his candidature, the Congress can at least hope to achieve a few objectives. And I'll just name 2-3 of them. So one is, if he is fielded as an opposition candidate, he may dent the BJP in some areas. Then the Congress will be able to countervail PM aspirants like Kejriwal and Banerjee. And then it will also send a message to backward communities, and Congress may hope to kind of get some kind of goodwill among the backwards by fielding an OBC, a Kurmi candidate. So coming to the first point first, denting the BJP. Why I'm saying he'll be able to dent the BJP? Because let's look at the BJP's strategy. Nitish Kumar enjoys a clean image. He's not a dynast. So that will probably take the sting out of the BJP's usual campaign rhetoric about, corruption, dynasts. That is usually the main thrust of the BJP. That sting will not be there anymore if Kumar is there, Nitish Kumar is projected. Then Nitish Kumar, being a Kurmi, may also help to counter the BJP's OBC PM message. It will become like OBC versus OBC contest. Then come to the third point, to another point, like a Bihari PM slogan, in 2024. Could be pretty effective in countering Modi's popularity in Bihar. You know, in Bihar, the NDA, last time Bihar, NDA had got 39 out of 40, although that NDA included JDU also then. But it got 39 out of 40 Lok Sabha seats. And there is no doubt that Modi is still the most popular leader when it comes to Lok Sabha elections. So if you recall in 2014, when JDU had contested alone, JDU had got just 2 seats, just 2. And BJP had then got 21 seats, I think. So again, when you create that Bihari PM thing, that message, things will change. Because just Bihar is pretty crucial in the BJP scheme of things. It had got, in 14 it had got 21, I think in 2019 it got 17 out of those 39 that NDA won. And 6, LJP had won 16, I think, JDU had won 16. So you fill the Bihari PM, make a slogan around that. And that would also put potential partners of the BJP in Bihar on the defensive. Somebody like Chirag Paswan, for instance, he's set to come back to the NDA now that Nitish Kumar is out. But then these parties will really find it difficult to oppose what you call the possible first Bihari Prime Minister. That will have very strong resonance in Bihar at least. And then you add to that the slogan which of a Kurmi PM, they may not call him a Kurmi PM as such, but that message will be out. They may be showcasing him as an OBC PM primarily. You do that, and the constituency that the BJP has been nursing so assiduously in Uttar Pradesh, the constituency of Kurmis. I mean, BJP has been promoting Kurmi leaders in the party. It has been allying with Apna Dal of Anupriya Patel since 2014. They would feel the heat if you have a Kurmi PM or the OBC PM. And because there are already worries in the BJP. If you look at it, in UP, the Samajwadi Party's tally of Kurmi MLAs, that has gone in this 2022 election, that has gone up to 13. It was 2 in 2017. And BJP's tally of Kurmi MLAs has come down to 22 from 26 in the previous assembly. So opposition parties are able to kind of make forays into that constituency. In UP, Kurmis constitute just about 7% of the population, 7.4, 7.5, according to estimates, of course. But they are spread, you know, in UP they are concentrated in some areas, although Kurmis are spread over several states, north central, western India. Their concentration in pockets in Bihar and UP makes them politically very influential. In Bihar, say, the numbers are not great, and they constitute just about 3 to 4% of the population. But in Bihar, things are different. It's not just about Kurmis, Koidis, many other castes. Like Nitish Kumar has cultivated a much larger constituency among what you call Ati Pichra or extremely backward classes and Mahadalits. So in Bihar, his appeal is not limited to only Kurmis, although he has a total grip over that vote bank. So although this, agrarian community of Kurmis, if they're akin to and, known by different names in other parts. So in Maharashtra, for instance, you have Kunbis. Even in Gujarat, like Patidars, they are supposed to be akin to Kurmis. So when you had Hardik Patel, when he had gone to Bihar a few years back, he had said that, I belong to the same caste as Nitish Kumar. In fact, for the Kurmis, Sardar Patel is an icon. But it's very unlikely that, Nitish Kumar's candidature will resonate beyond Bihar and pockets of UP and probably Jharkhand. So you don't really expect that, Patidars will identify themselves with the Kurmi PM or with that caste in Bihar that way, where their voting behavior is affected. You don't really think that Kunbis in Maharashtra will vote for Nitish Kumar. But yes, in Bihar, parts of UP and Jharkhand, wherever Kunbis are there, it may actually swing that vote bank. And thing is, in these states, BJP has a lot at stake. Because these 3 states, Bihar, UP and Jharkhand, they send about 134 MPs to the Lok Sabha. Then the Congress supporting a Bihari candidate, PM candidate, may also place Mamata Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal on a sticky wicket. Given the sizable presence of Bihari migrants in Delhi and West Bengal, So in Delhi, for instance, on all the 7 seats, you have the sizable presence of these migrants. In Bengal, they play a crucial role in at least 10 Lok Sabha constituencies. That's from Kolkata to Havra, many others. An OBC PM candidate or a Kurmi PM candidate would also make Akhilesh Yadav reassess his alliance strategy. I mean, we have seen how he has been able to, make forage into that constituency. We have spoken about the number of Kurmi MLAs that have been elected on the SP ticket. Now, if you have Nitish Kumar as a candidate, and you would be careful, you won't really like to oppose him. Because right now, Akhilesh is like he's saying, no, I won't have any alliance with Congress, with nobody. But suppose the Congress starts supporting that, okay, we are okay with Nitish Kumar being a prime ministerial candidate. That will really make things difficult for Akhilesh Yadav. He will have to reassess his alliance strategy. Kejriwal will have to think. Mamata Banerjee will have to think. So in a nutshell, in fact, results of a Nitish Kumar versus Modi contest may look very predictable, but it's the best bet for the Congress, given how Mamata Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal, they are looking to corner the Congress. And here the Congress has nothing to lose, except its ego perhaps. Aside, if the outcome of 2024 Lok Sabha election is on expected lines, going by the latest MOTN survey also, Tejasvi Yadav would be more worried, because then Nitish Kumar would look to get sworn in for the 9th time as the CM in 2025. And that will be a big worry for Tejasvi Yadav. That's all from me in this episode of Politically Correct. Thanks for watching.